Hey, I'm your host, Kit Author, and Write Talk Wednesday is on the Muse Charmer Media Network. I can see that we're going live here on Twitch. We are live on Twitch and on YouTube. Catch us at twitch.tv/EponaAuthor and on YouTube at youtube.com/@EponaAuthorSolutions. I am pleased to bring you the first of our November streams involving our NaNoWriMo authors. And so what I want to do this month is talk to authors who have completed NaNoWriMo and how they've handled the book that they wrote, and help give you guys out there just some encouragement. And just want to do a reminder, I've got an office cat and just trying to keep her from knocking over the camera, as tends to happen at least one show. So just want to go ahead and get started here. I have got author D.V. Stone. You can read all of the information about D.V. Stone on our website, but let me just tell you a little bit about her. D.V. Stone is a multi-award winning, multi-genre, traditionally and independently published author who writes books that people want to read. Their stories are about the importance of friends and family regardless of genre, and they're about overcoming obstacles, often with humor. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to DV while I navigate the cat here real quick. So feel free to tell our watchers and our future listeners just a little bit about you.
Hi, Kit. Oh, I'd like to see your cat. I love cats. I have one myself. My cat is 23 years old.
Oh,
she looks like Abraham, my older cat that I used to have. So we
oh.
have a 23-year-old camp cat who, at 20 years old, started camping with us down in Florida when we go down for the winter months. We go down April through or January through April. And she's like a duck to water. She just loves to go camping. She's blind in one eye now. She's deaf, but she's 23. I think that's 106 in cat life. So, but yes, I'm a multi-genre author. I write fantasy. I write romantic suspense. I also write mid-grade. And I just dip my toes into paranormal, historical, romance, action, adventure. And so I'm a little bit everywhere. But it all started with, on my right side up, with NaNoWriMo. This is my certificate.
That is great. So, just to kind of begin with that, since it all started with NaNoWriMo, what made you want to do the event?
Well, I started writing later in life. I was laid off from a job that I really liked. I kind of went into a little bit of a depression thing. And then at one point it was like, okay, get over yourself, put on your big girl pants, and what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And I knew that I always loved to read, and writing never took off for me before, but now I had opportunity and time to be able to do that. Empty nester. My husband and I worked separate shifts, so he worked night shifts, I was home during the day. And so I started fooling around with it. I started writing, and it really kind of started taking off this time. I joined a couple of writing groups, and they started talking about, November started coming around, they started talking about this thing called NaNoWriMo. And so, like, what is it? I love a challenge, I'm very competitive. So, so they're like, okay, so here's what it is. It's 50,000 words, 30 days, go. That's kind of a scary thought. It takes a lot. And I haven't done it since 2015 when I did this one. It does take a lot of determination. It takes a lot of focus. And for me being a competitive person, I haven't done it since because I don't think I would be able to, at this stage of my life, be able to get the 50,000 words in 30 days. And that would be setting myself up for failure. In my head, it would be failure. It's not failure. It's silly to even think that, but that's the way my brain works. So.
Mine too. I'm not doing it this year. I haven't done it for a while, but especially this year, I work full time. I'm going to college full time, and I was just like, no, I'm not putting that pressure on myself this year. So, yeah, it's I think it's a good, thing to make that decision for yourself. And I think that's really important to be able to have that self awareness and self care to be able to say, hey, that might be a bit too much. Now, do you just kind of on your own try to keep your writing count up during the month of November, or do you do anything to kind of to push yourself that way without the official challenge?
I've been in kind of a writing slump this summer. Some things have changed in my life that created a big disturbance in the force. So I just recently returned to every day sitting down at my desk and writing, and I hope that, and I'm determined that that's going to continue. It's a focus and it's a discipline to do that. So whether it's this month having it or just for the year having it, because I'm working on 3 separate books right now, which is kind of because I have so many different series and I have different expectations from different readers wanting books in certain series done, and then I decided to just go off and start another one that I just wanted to do for me. So I have all these projects started and really want to buckle down and do it. So it's a good month to keep that in mind, that other people around not only the United States but around the world are doing NaNoWriMo. So
That sounds very familiar, having multiple series, multiple genres, and then, oh, look, this sounds fun, let's write this too. And yeah, I completely understand how that feels and how that goes. I don't have a daily writing habit. I've allowed myself permission to say, okay, I'm going to focus on something else today, or, the day just got out of hand. But I totally agree that a daily writing habit, or at least sitting down and thinking about writing and checking in with yourself to see if that's something you can do, is vital. I think it's a good way to build up that habit and to stretch that writing muscle.
and I think it's not even just writing the book, because we spoke shortly before we went live. I also do 2 blogs, which involves a lot of writing with that. As a published author, I have things like social media I have to keep up with. Just a lot of different marketing, things like that. So I had a lot of balls in the air at one time. So writing isn't just the everyday discipline. It's also editing. It's doing all those little details that as an author that you get done in the course of the day, or a week, or a month, or a year.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point. So just want to quickly remind our listeners and viewers, if you are watching us live on either YouTube or Twitch, that feel free, if you got questions for myself or DV, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'm happy to ask them live. Otherwise, we're glad you're here, and you can always catch those replays. So I've in the live stream, I've got a nice little banner on the side here over next to our faces, and I have a copy of your book, which is Rock House Grill, I believe, is how that title is. So yes, yep, perfect, matches my picture. So that's
That was that's not my first book, but that's the first book that was picked up by a publishing house, the Wild Rose Press. And that was my NaNo book that I started in 2015 and didn't get published until 2020. So it was a long process. But in that process, the second book in the series it was also published by Wild Rose. So Rock House Grill and then Jazz House. So it started a whole thing for me.
great. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, I've got the information here on the book, and again, that's also going to be on the show notes. And your tagline: "One man's choices, one woman's impact." It looks like the book won Light's first place for Sweet Romance. It was a recommended read in 2020 by Author Shout Out, and it made 3rd place in the M.A.A.S. Awards last year, 2022. And it really looks interesting. I'm just going to read the blurb for our listeners. Aden House, successful but driven chef and TV personality, refuses to slow down. His life implodes one night, damaging him both physically and emotionally. He's rescued by a woman he thinks of as his angel. Shay McDowell has rebuilt her life after her divorce. She juggles volunteer EMT duties and her job while dreaming of becoming a chef. She finds her way to Rock House Grill and back into the life of the man she helped save. Can love be the ingredient needed to survive the many obstacles they face? I mean, that sounds awesome. I've seen this book around as you've done other interviews and that, and I've always thought it sounds so interesting. So how did this story come together for you?
So what happened was when I decided to do the Nano challenge. Okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to write? The first book was fantasy, sword and sorcery kind of thing, and that has its own other thing going on. But I have 30 days, and I have to do 50,000 words. What am I going to do? So I had to write what I know, and I used to be an EMT, and so that was without saying. I used to have a restaurant, and so that got involved in there. And I love classic rock, so that got in there. So it came together with a series based on the House family, Aden House. This is still really a house, and so that became Rock House Grill and Jazz House, and I incorporated a lot of real life composites of people I know, things that happened, situations that I had been in, with little twists and turns because it's a romantic suspense. So while the criminal element wasn't there, I did know criminals because I spent 9 years in prison. I worked there. so so there were a lot of real life things came together in that book to enable me to, because I didn't plot it. It wrote it by the seat of my pants, start linear and went to the end, just right through it. I have to say that's the only book that I've been able to do that with.
That's interesting. I took the other journey. I went from a serious plotter, and now all I do is write by the seat of my pants. So I've done it both ways, and yeah. So you brought up a great point, and that is if you're doing NaNoWriMo and you're not sure what to write what you know. And if you can work things that you know or you're familiar with into the story, then I think that helps not only bring it to life but bring it along. Do you kind of agree with that?
I do, and I think in that 30 days, we call the first draft a dirty draft because it is a mess, and basically it's just a consciousness pouring out onto the page and pouring out onto the page. And as you go, you're thinking of, oh, I remember that one call I was on. Oh, remember that situation that happened? And oh, I remember cooking that dinner. So all those things I was able to get through. Now, the book was 50,000 words, so I got to my 50,000 words. The finished product is, I think, between 72 and 75. So going back then, there's a lot of changes that happened, a lot of cleaning up and stuff. But that whole thing is just to, you know it, get it down the best way you can. Don't worry what it looks like on paper. Don't worry about your spelling. Don't worry about your grammar. Turn off all that stuff and just get your thoughts, your ideas, and your dreams. Because a lot of it is your dreams as an author that is going down onto those pages.
Excellent advice. Did you in my prep live streams, I talked about either breaking your goals down into the 1,667 words a day and just keep chipping away at it that way, or doing larger blocks. Did you find, since we talked about a daily writing habit, that maybe one of those methods worked better for you? Or
When I say I wrote by the seat of my pants, that's what I wrote by. There was no plan, there was no rhyme or reason that went into it. When I get into the jam of writing, and that it's been that way since, that there's some days where I'll spend a half hour just, okay, I have this idea, I get maybe a paragraph or two out, and that's all I'm able to get that day. But then there are days where, from leaning on my desk, that these two fingers on each hand go numb because I'm just typing. Because for whatever reason that day, that things are flowing and you're getting it. So I really didn't have any set plan going into it. It was only my second book, um, so I really didn't have any idea of differences in how writing and stuff goes. I just kind of just went with it, and you know, it worked out for me. I was very blessed to be able to get this book picked up by a publishing house.
Great. Well, let's talk about that because you said there was a time span. You did Nano in 2015. It was published in 2020. Did you work on the book on your own for a while before submitting, or did you submit right away? How did that process work for you?
Well, the first book was independent. I just did it and I put it up as independent release. And that's where I thought that this was probably going to go. I started editing and rewriting and stuff and fleshing out my story. Um, I started sending, but I did send out query letters. Query letters are like what you send to agents, publishers, editors, which is this is who I am, this is what I wrote, you know, you know, I'd love it if we could talk about it. Short, sweet, to the point. And I would send those out, and I wasn't getting any of that. Um, so I kind of floundered through a little bit. I never went to school, educated. I left high school in my junior year to work on the farm. So I just worked all my life and not, but I've read a lot. And so I don't know all the grammar and all the punctuation and all, what is the past participle and this, that, and the other thing. I had no idea. So, funny story was actually had a cover and everything made because I was going to do, I had an editor look at it, warning to people, get the best editor that you can afford. Do not try to cut corners and try to save money on your editor. There's other places you can do that. You can learn formatting, you can learn marketing, you learn all that stuff yourself. You need an editor. So I had somebody look at the book, and they're like, oh yeah, this is, you know, a couple of things and stuff. Well, I had said I was sending out query letters. So it was in May of 2019. 2019, yeah. And so I sent out the 5 query letters, and I go back and I check those things. And all of a sudden I realized that one of the query letters I sent, I put the wrong name in the salutation. Okay, edit yourself. Don't hit the button until you know where you're going out. So I'm like, oh, so real quick, I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you're gonna file those press. I know you're gonna file those press. I apologize. Blah blah blah. Thinking, okay, piss that one off. You're not going anywhere with it. And a little while later, ding, my email box goes off, and it is Rhoda Hedgers from Wild Rose Press, and she's like, go ahead and send me the information on it. So I sent the information. I get the letter back that says, you know, you'll probably hear from us in 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. By the end of the weekend, they were asking for the full manuscript on the story. That sounds great, doesn't it? Then it went to the editor, and the editor's like, this is terrible. There was so much wrong with it. She's like, you really need to fix this. So I went in and I thought that I fixed it and sent it back to the editor, and she's like, no, you need to fix this. Back it came, I did it again. She's like, this is your last chance. You have to fix this, otherwise we are not going to offer the contract. So I panicked and I reached out to a woman that I knew online. And I'm like, can you help me with this? They're going to not give me a contract because I have no idea what we're doing. And she went through and she helped me a lot. I ended up getting the contract for it. So that was towards the end of, no, that was 2018. 2019 I started the contract. 2020 it got published because it takes a long time for a publisher to publish a book. So a lot of ups and downs, a lot of turmoil, a lot of craziness. But the lesson from it is don't give up. Just keep going. And that works for National Novel Writing Month in November. Don't give up. Just keep going. You get the book back. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Every little step, every little thing is something that you learn and makes you better as a writer and makes you better as a person.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. I do want to do a little bit of a shameless plug. Epona Author Solutions. I'm an editor. I, I've done, I have 20 plus years as a published author, 10 plus years as an editor. Also know what kind of editor you need too, because there is a big difference between a development editor and somebody who's just a copy editor, and there's usually several editing passes. So if you got questions, you can always reach out to me. That's great questions to put in the chat or reach out to me online in social media. Ask in your writing groups, ask in your writing communities, ask on social media. Um, Great information to have. So, um, sorry, last I was like, so shameless plug, lost my train of thought. Yeah. um, and I think that's important too, that the publishing process takes time. I see a lot of people who write in November, edit in December, and expect it to be published in January, which, if you're doing it yourself, maybe, but it depends on, if your editor, how far out your editor's booked, your cover artist, all of that good stuff. And I know from running a publishing company, like you said, it is not uncommon to take a year, 6 months to find that lineup. I mean, New York publishers, it's usually 2 or 3 years these days, especially with COVID. So it sounds like you kept busy as well, writing the next book in the series as well as just writing other books.
Correct. And working diligently on trying to get, every time you send it off to the editor, you kind of like, oh, it's off my plate for at least a couple of weeks, and then you can focus on other things until you get it back again. Because it does, it goes through, it goes, Rock House went through four edits and then final galleys before it was finally able to go to print. That's a lot of back and forth. And, your editor isn't working with just you. She's working with 25 other people trying to get their books edited. It's a big turnaround process. You get it done. They get it. They get it done back and forth, back and forth. So it is something that I have been able to go a little shorter doing, because like I do independent still. But still, those take a while. Those take a while to do. I finished one last year. I worked with a group of authors. There were 7 of us, and we got together kind of as just a mosh group to talk to each other about things like, what's driving us crazy, how do we do this, marketing stuff, just kind of bounce things off each other. And then somebody had the brilliant idea that said, we should write a book together. All different genres, none of us wrote the same genre. All different heat levels, everything from sweet to really, really, really spicy. And, just all over. Some people wrote big, big novels, and some wrote, shorter novels. So the 7 of us said, okay, that'd be a really good idea. Let's get together, we'll do this. We did do it. I was able to write the book probably in, it probably took me to get the final storyline, probably 6 weeks. It was a novella, it was a poem. But it was over a year then, before even as an independent, that series of books came out. They just came out this past spring, where all 7 of us were able to get the books out within the month of March. So it started in March, it was a year later when it got published, and that was as an independent. Because as an independent, you're creating your own covers, you find your own editors, you're doing everything by yourself. Luckily, we had a group of 7 of us that could work together, but it was a big job.
I can imagine. I've done some of those group projects. I really like them. I'd like to do more of them, because I think it's fun, and you kind of feed off of each other creatively, and you kind of, you can work other elements in and characters in. And so were your stories all set in your own unique world, so to speak, or were they all kind of a shared world? Or
they're all standalone. It's
okay.
called the Mortar and Pestle series. So what it was, I was smack dab in the middle. So we had 7 of us. I was book number 4. So the first book was Selkie, which started this mystical mortar and pestle that traveled through time, finding people that it wanted to help find their heart's desire, their true love. So it did have some paranormal elements more in some books, less in others. So we had Selkie that came first, and that was just real early Viking times. And then we had Seeker, which was Scottish Highlands. Then we had Quartermaster, which was the golden age of piracy. And mine was post World War II. So I went into historical, not way back historical, but historical, and mine was a paranormal ghost story. I call it, I say, if you like Indiana Jones, Lara Croft, it's like if they had a baby, so it's an action adventure kind of thing going on. And then after that was revamped about an energy vampire, and then the two final ones were Artist and what was the other one? They were both more contemporary romance than they were a paranormal. The only paranormal thing in them was the Buddha Testo. So all standalones, but they all had a thread. Things that was overriding on.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. That sounds fun. That the kind of the where you're given the elements and then you kind of get to play with it. I think that's really fun to do. So, we are coming up on about 6:30. Just a second. Sorry, I couldn't hit mute fast enough.
It'll help.
Yeah. Sorry, it just hit me. We're coming up on 6:30, and so, it sounds like that your advice would be not to give up, to be persistent, and to write what you know.
Yep, exactly. Persistence. Get yourself, especially if this is the first time you're starting to write stuff, get yourself a nice, heavy, thick skin, because it takes thick skin, because you can't have people saying, you send books out and think, oh, I love this. Well, what do you love about it? I don't know. You need constructive criticism, and people, especially your friends and family, well, mostly friends and family, they want to be nice to you. So you have to find people that will tell you the truth, as much as it may hurt. And my thing is, if one person says something, okay, you can kind of work with that. If more than one person says the same thing, you need to address that, because that is a problem, especially if they don't know each other and they're not talking amongst each other. So, but any criticism, whether it's good or bad, you need to listen to it, you need to hear it, and you need to say, okay, how can I make my book better? And you really need to be persistent. You can write, and you can write anything you want for as long as you want, and not even want to get published. You can do it just for joy, because it's a joyful thing to get a story. But if you want to go the publishing route, it's a long haul, and it's a lot of work.
Definitely, definitely. And I think the other thing I'd like to add to that is wait till Nano is over to get that criticism. Don't don't show it to anybody when you're in the middle of writing it. Get it written and then get feedback, and then that way you won't get discouraged too.
That's an excellent point, because if somebody had said something to me bad in the middle of it, I'd be like, do I want to finish this? Is it worth it? All my self-critical doubts and stuff would come to the forefront, and you don't want to do that. No. I locked my computer. Nobody could get into my computer. It was password protected. Not my husband, not my kid. Nobody can get into my computer at the time I was writing it. And now it's like free for all. You want to read this? Please read this. Somebody read this.
I understand. I really do. So, I have put your links in the show notes. I will add them to the show notes on YouTube as well. The show will be archived on YouTube, hopefully forever and ever. It will stay on Twitch for 2 weeks, and then it falls off. But they only keep things for about 2 weeks. So, where can readers find out more about you, or listeners, I guess, and viewers? Where can they find out more about you and your books?
Easy peasy. Just go to D like in Donna. That's my first name. V like in Victor. Stone. Nothing in between. D Stone. Author. That's who I am. .com. DVStoneAuthor.com. That'll take you anywhere you want to go. I have blogs on there. I introduced authors to people and do in-depth interviews with them. I also do new releases on my blog. So if you're looking for something to read, you can pop over there on Monday, hot off the press systems, it'll be something will be coming out. I'm all over social media, but all those links are on my website.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it has been a joy. I'm so glad that you agreed to be interviewed and that you kick off our November encouragement month for NaNoWriMo. Um, I hope at some point, we were talking before the show, I want to, once I get my writing kind of rebranded and going again, I'd love to, go over to your blog, and I've got a couple more show ideas, so I might be reaching out again in the future.
I hope to hear from you. And if anybody on my website, you can even get through to my email address and stuff. So if somebody's got questions, they can shoot me off some questions, and I'm happy to. I've been I'm not a teacher like a school teacher, but I've taught and I've mentored and I've helped people, and I enjoy doing that. So if you have questions or anything, and I'm not a Dutch uncle, I'll tell you like it is. If you don't want to know the answer to this question, don't ask the question. But I do it in a kind way, constructive way. So if anybody needs help with anything or they have a question, I'm happy to answer it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, the writing community is so full of people who are willing to answer questions and to help one another out. So yeah, definitely, whether you're reaching out to DV or myself, please, don't be shy. Don't be shy. We don't bite. We've been there.
Well, talking about books and writing is like our favorite thing to do.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I'm just going to do a quick check here. I'm not seeing any comments today. Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah. Yep, I'm not seeing any questions or anything. So thank you so much for everybody who's watching and listening. And thank you for being here. And I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for hosting me. I really enjoyed it as well. And say hi to your cat.
I will. Thank you. Have a good evening.